Ons begin 2 minute vroeg. Goeiemiddag, dames en here. My naam is Jody Hendricks. Ek gaan vanmiddag se gesprek lei met 3 gesoute joernaliste. Ek gaan binnekort vir hulle aan mekaar voorstel. Ons gaan ook 'n bietjie later vir julle die gehoor, die geleentheid gee om 'n vraag te vra oor gedrukte media of digitaal. Hoe vertolk ons en julle spesifiek dan deesdae die nuus, alles op jou selfoon? Die dae van koerante is getel, hoor ek, of so sê hulle. Ek gaan my paneel se opinie daaroor vra. Net gou vir hulle aan julle voorstel. Eerstens het ons vir Karen Nel, sy's ek en sy het saamgeswat. Sy gaan nou nie sê hoe lank is ons al in die bedryf nie, maar sy het in media gewerk, by koerante en deesdae ook in radio. Goeiemiddag.
Dankie, Jody.
Crystal Odison, jy is nog meer ervare as ons. Jy het nog by die ou Pentec geswat. Ons was daarom nog by CPUT. Ook 'n welkom aan jou en ek sien ook uit na jou mening vanmiddag.
Dankie, Jody.
En dan het ons ook vir Ryland Fisher, hy seker die mees ervare joernalis van ons almal en hy was ook toevallig my en Karen se departementshoof by die departement journalistiek by CPUT so 20 jaar gelede, Ryland. Ja. Welkom.
Dankie.
So net gou eerste, die vraag is, hoe vertolk ons nuus? En ek gaan met jou begin, Ryland. Deesdae met sosiale media, die sogenaamde clickbait, soos hulle in Engels sê, en jy is meer as welkom in Engels te antwoord ook, is, hoe vertolk jy jou nuus en moet ons bekommerd wees oor die standaard van journalistiek met koerante wat verdwyn en alles wat aanlyn gaan?
Ja, dankie. Die mense praat altyd van koerante wat besig is om te verdwyn. En hulle, they equate newspapers with journalism. Okay? One of the things I do, and I do a lot of things, but one of the things I do is I convene the Vodacom Journalist of the Year Awards. And every year when we judge Vodacom Journalist of the Year Awards, I am so impressed with the standard of journalism that we find across the country. I mean, in the Eastern Cape, for instance, there's at the paper like the Daily Dispatch, P. Herald, they produce beautiful, beautiful journalism. Stories that I would never ever have seen if I wasn't involved in the Vodacom Journals of the Year Awards. And so, for me, content is king, okay? It's all about content. And so, if I think about the newspaper industry, newspapers have been around in South Africa, more than 150 years. Globally, more than 200 years. So newspapers actually had a good run, okay? There are industries that lasted maybe for 10 years, 20 years, whatever, but newspapers had a good run. But the end of newspapers, while it's sad, it's not the end of journalism. And so we still need to find ways of promoting journalism. One of the things we did at Vodacom Journals of the Year about 5 years ago when I became convener, the immediate thing I did was I decided to scrap awards based on platforms. So at that point we had like a print news journalist, a radio journalist, a television journalist and stuff like that. And I said, no, we must judge it on content. And so now we have, like in the investigative category, we would have carte blanche, fighting with special assignment, fighting with the Sunday Times, fighting with the Mail and Guardian, all in the same category, because they're all doing investigative journalism. And so that's the kind of mindset change that one needs to have. It's about content. It's not necessarily about the platform that the content is distributed on.
Crystal, jou gedagtes?
Jody, so ek sal eers begin om te sê dis maar rof daar buite. Dis rof. I have been fortunate that I've been a journalist for the past 3 decades and I've seen the evolution. So die eerste ding is, Jody, you have to be agile and adapt. And unless a newsroom or a news editor understands that, dan jy gaan maar jou deure moet toemaak, né? En so dis vir my die eerste belangrike ding, want ek moet self agile wees. Ek is 'n vryskut joernalis, so ek moet TV doen, ek moet radio doen, ek moet skryf, ek moet onderwys
Foto's
gee, ek moet alles doen. So unless newsrooms become agile, then it's going to be the end. Maar as 'n mens nou kyk na die New York Times in Amerika, of ons kyk na die Guardian in Engeland, hulle subscribers have triple-fold. Jy weet, daar's duisende mense wat $10 of whatever betaal vir nuus. So, jy weet, dis die evolution van nuus. So, soos Ryland sê, koerante, they've had a good run. Maar die realiteit is, in die volgende 10 jaar, dink ek nie gaan ons die Sunday Times op 'n Sondag gaan koop nie. Dis die realiteit. Ons weet, die Burger, Beeld, as ons dink net van 'n paar jaar gelede, die Sowetan, jy weet, alles is, jy weet, is duur. En vir die afgelope 6 maande het ek geskryf vir Financial Mail. En natuurlik is dit nou jy weet, 'n finansies magazine. Jy weet, as hulle 15,000 kopies 'n week verkoop, is dit baie. 15,000, Jody. So wat beteken dit? As ons nie nuus skryf vir mense wat geïnteresseerd is in dit, jy weet, dan moet jy jou deure toemaak. So nuuskantore, joernaliste, die eienaars van die koerante, van verskillende mediagroepe. Die realiteit is, die nuusmedia het verander, demografie het verander, watter soort nuus jy wil hê het verander, en as jy nie gaan adapt nie, dan moet jy maar jou deure toemaak.
Kern, toe ons studeer het hulle nog vir ons geleer hoe om 'n koerant uitleg te doen en bymekaar te sit, want ons wil almal by die Cape Times of die Burger of waar ook al gaan werk het. Vandag as jy met journalistiek studente praat, is dit jy moet wel Grieks met hulle praat, want hulle verstaan nie die nodigheid om byvoorbeeld 'n koerant bymekaar te sit, want vir hulle is alles aanlyn. Hoe het jy dit gesien, die verandering die afgelope paar jaar?
Ja, ek onthou toe ons geswat het, was dit soort van in ons ingedwing, as jou naam in print is jou naam vir ewig. En dit is soort van dit is wat jy vir altyd wil bereik. En print is beskou as die alfa en die omega van journalistiek. En ek dink soos wat ons gegroei het in die bedryf en soos wat ons ook ander mediums probeer het ons agtergekom, ek bedoel, dit is maar net ook 'n platform. Maar net om jou vraag te beantwoord oor ons lei vandag joernaliste op om digitaal eerste te dink. En ek dink dis 'n groot sprong van wat ons destyds onthou het. Ons het geleer van jou koerant moet bestaan uit nuus, sport, kuns, politiek. En vandag is daai groot areas, ek dink dit het soveel meer ryker geraak en uitgebrei. Ons leer vandag joernaliste om stories te verryk op digitale platforms met video, met audio, met reels op Instagram. Ek bedoel, dis heeltemal anders. Maar net om by te voeg met dit wat almal sê, ek dink ons as joernaliste moet ook tred hou met hoe die wêreld verander en hoe die media verander. En ek dink daar's ook 'n verantwoordelikheid op lesers om daarbey ook tred te hou. En soms is daai verantwoordelikheid, almal is nie noodwendig daar waar ons is nie, om jou lesers saam met jou op daai journey te vat, verg soms 'n bietjie kreatiwiteit en 'n bietjie dinkwerk en ook 'n bietjie net anders dink oor die media as 'n sakemodel, maar ek bedoel, daai is nou 'n ander gesprek.
Ryland, kom ons praat gou oor eerstens aanlyn media, en ek dink dit was hier in die middel 2000, 2007, 2008 het ek by 'n publikasie gewerk. En toe was die buzzword, soos hulle gesê het, aanlyn, alles moet nou aanlyn gaan, jy weet, mense moet op die webwerf gaan klik en alles. En toe kom sosiale media en dit het totaal en al die media wêreld verander. So daai sprong van, jy weet, die aanpassing van 'n gedrukte koerant, tydskrif of sovoorts, en dan aanlyn en toe ook sosiale media, hoe het die media verander en aangepas volgens jou?
With great difficulty. In fact, 'n klomp mense in die mediabedryf praat nog steeds van how do we monetize online media, you know, how do we make money out of it? We don't know how to make money out of it. But ek wil net sê, ek is natuurlijk ouer as allemaal van julle wat op die verhoog sit. But in 1999, toen was ik editor van die Cape Times. At that time, the Cape Times would still easily sell 100,000 copies a day. Then I had a kind of a workshop with my staff, and I told them that my vision of the future is a journalist who would go out with a little video camera. Dat was onze phone nog eens een kooi nie, ek het nie geween. But you would go out with a video camera and you would do an interview with somebody. You would come back, you would write a story for the print print publication. You would take a clip from the video and do a story for television, and you would take an audio clip and do a story for radio, and you would put. And I didn't at that time realize that it would be so easy to put video online. So I said, you would maybe take the story that you've written, put it online, and you would take 1 or 2 pictures out of the video clip, and put it online. And die journaliste, my staff, hulle het vir my so aangekyk en sê, sy bedoel het. They couldn't realize that is what would happen. Today, like Karen said, that's what people are doing. Okay, journalists go out and they really kind of take note of the need for digital media, the need for social media. And in 2012, I decided, okay, I wanted to report a little bit. I hadn't reported for quite a while. I went to the ANC conference in Bloemfontein, and I'm sitting with all these young reporters, and ek was like, ek kyk nou wat hulle doen, ek was like, ek wil nou doen wat hulle doen. They put everything on Twitter. Kwedi Mantashi's praat. A minute later, they put something on Twitter. I was taking notes in my notebook, and then I thought I wanted to put something on Twitter. Then I realized that what they were actually doing is their Twitter feed was actually their notes. And so that's how they've adapted. And I couldn't. It was old-fashioned.
Old school.
But I'm trying. Okay, I'm trying to adapt. I'm on all social media platforms. I struggle sometimes to keep up with kind of updating all my social media platforms because it takes a lot of time, I know some people who are like influencers and so on. They've got their people doing their social media. Ek is nie ryk genoeg om my people te hê. But that's the reality of today. You can't ignore it, and I think like Crystal said, you've got to adapt, Otherwise, you might as well just give up.
And Crystal, let's talk about adapting in die mense wat bijvoorbeeld 20, 30 jaar, selfs miskien 10 jaar gelede nog koerante gekoop het. Ons het gesien daar is 'n verandering in verbruikerstrends wat hulle almal beweeg meer aanlyn. Hulle wil liewer op die rekenaar of op hulle foon nuusmaatskappye moet aanpas by dit, anders dan gaan hulle agterraak.
Jody, ek het my beroep begin by die SAIK en so 5 jaar, jy weet wat ek gewerk het by die SAIK. So our editor introduced Buy Media, which was doing radio and TV. So it's writing to script, using sound, using video. Of course, Ryland, there were a lot of people that didn't want to adapt. I was one of the people that were like, let me embrace this. And I think it really stood the test of time for me because 30 years later, I'm still a journalist. I'm still doing everything possibly under the sun because I adapted and I saw the way things were going. But the reality is, like Ryland says, ek is op al die sosiale media platforms. Ek is op Instagram. Jy gaan nooit vir my sien op Facebook. Miskien so hier en daar 'n X of ek is maar nou op TikTok want ek moet nou research doen. Want dis te veel, dis die realiteit. Maar ek is nog steeds 'n nuuspersoon. So ek wil vir Karen Ann luister in die middag as ek in my kar is en ek wil KFM en ek wil nuus luister wat credible is, wat korrek is, en dit is nie misinformation nie. Nou die ding is, mense kan nou ook praat van AI. Die realiteit is, AI kan nie Mitchells Plain of Stellenbosch of Khayelitsha toe gaan om 'n protes te gaan doen nie. Wat gaan AI vir jou sê? Hulle kan dit nie doen nie. Jy moet nog steeds 'n verslaggewer hê wat in die gemeenskap is, of 'n buurvrou of 'n buurman wat kan sê, daar was 10 mense wat gekom het en X het gebeur. As ons nou dink gisteraand by Jocelyn in Saldanha Bay, die huis was afgebrand. Kan AI vir jou daai storie vertel? Nee. So dis die een realiteit. Ek dink, jy weet die nuusmedia, jy weet is 'n besigheid. Jy kan planne maak, jy kan na die finansies kyk, maar jy kan ook nie beplan dat technology has changed so fast. It has like fast forward, like superseded everything. Ek dink even, jy weet, hier die paneel wat nou van verskillende generasies van kom, could imagine that the change would be so incremental. And so you cannot expect that the newspaper owner, who 10 years ago, as Ryland said, sold 100,000 copies, daai is 'n droom nou in vandag se tyd. Jy moet lucky it if you get 5,000 likes. Maar ek sê nog steeds, Jody, is die basies. It's the 5 W's and the H. As jy 'n storie kan vertel, kyk vanmiddag, kyk die audience, ek is geskok. Ek het nie gedink as ons sal so baie mense hier wees nie. As ons praat en ons doen stories wat jy voel is belangrik is, that talks to the heart, that talks to the emotion, that talks to the issues happening on the ground, dan gaan mense daai R25 betaal vir 'n subscription. Jy weet, vir my is dit, kyk, koerante se dae is op, Jody. We must move on with the conversation. Die reality, maar wat is dit? Hier is jou foon, daar is jou computer. Wat kan ons gee vir die audience wat hulle gaan voel, o ja, dit is my storie, of ek gaan vir Karen luister op KFM, of ek gaan luister na RSG. We know that legacy media is not quite dying, Jody. Daar is nie nog 'n RSG in die boet. Daar is nie nog 'n Jody Hendricks nie. So vir my is dit weer eens, Jody, adapt. Jy weet, jy moet agile wees. Jy kan nie net sit en sê, ek het nou 'n werk, ek kry my maandelikse salaris. Kyk, ek het vir 13 jaar het ek nog nooit 'n salaris gekry nie. Maar ek is nog steeds 'n joernalis, want ek weet elke dag moet jy opstaan, wipe yourself off en sê, wat 'n storie gaan ek vandag vertel. En unless jy dit gaan doen, Jody, dan moet jy maar kry vir jou 'n ander karier, begin maar influencer of begin sing of iets.
Karen, en kom ons gesels gou, ek wil 'n bietjie verder gesels oor die aanpassing en veral die gehoor wat jy weet, toe ek gepost het oor die gesprek wat ons gehad het, was daar 'n paar mense wat nog gesê het ek mis so die rapport op 'n Sondag en jy weet, ek luister nog RSG of ek luister KFM. Deesdae podcast is ook 'n buzzword in die media wat gebruik, wat mense wat nie noodwendig opgeleide joernaliste is nie, wat nou platforms gebruik en mense beïnvloed rondom menings en nuus wat gebeur.
Dis 'n baie sensitiewe topic en ek dink veral vir joernaliste wat ek dink ons is baie besitlik oor ons bedryf en ons weet ons werk vat ons nie ligtelik op nie en dis iets wat net my ma sê altyd, sy voel dis my wat is die woord, mami?
Sien die woord,
dit was my calling. So my roeping, dankie, wat nie in Afrikaans praat nie. Dis ons calling en dis die woord content creation en content create is dit is 'n woord wat daar's baie mense wat net inhoud skep en dan hulle self joernaliste noem. En daar's baie mense wat van ander platforms af steel en dit dan as hulle eie afmaak en ek bedoel dit is 'n gevaarlike terrein waarin 'n mens beweeg, want watter checks and balances was daar gedoen, watter bronne is gebel, watter credible werk het daarin gegaan,
Media etiek,
watter media etiek, watter reëls is, ek bedoel, ek dink mense dink soms joernaliste skryf net, maar ek bedoel dis navorsing, dis kontakte, dis dinkwerk, daar's soveel meer as net om iets van die internet af te trek en dan te package as jou eie. So ja, ek dink die verantwoordelikheid en daai rol en veral met misinformation wat so maklik op die internet versprei kan word, is ek dink ons moet baie meer eienaarskap vat van dit wat ons doen en dit wat ons wil hê mense in moet glo. Ons wil hê mense moet vertroue hê in die journalistiek en kan glo dit wat hulle lees of hoor of sien dat dit waar is.
Ek hoor wat jy sê. Rylan, ek wil gou vir jou vra, want ons praat nou oor hoe vertolk jy jou nuus digitaal of in druk. En jy weet, as 'n former newspaper editor, a journalist goes out to write a story, writes a first draft, maybe a second draft, sends it to a sub-editor, deputy editor, it eventually gets to you, everybody makes changes, checks the facts and so forth. Today, because if the protest happens, if the Jocelyn trial court case, it needs to go out immediately. Checks and balances, facts, stuff like that, the quality of journalism by people sometimes who don't have the necessary background or didn't study journalism or media ethics and stuff like that. Should we be worried as consumers?
Yes, I think we should be worried. The reality is, I mean, like I said, journalism isn't dying. Journalism is still alive and well. And journalism shouldn't be allowed to die. And part of being a journalist is understanding the law, what you can write, what you can't write, ethics, etc. And what happens nowadays, I mean, I get frustrated sometimes. There's this case of this young girl who was raped in the Eastern Cape, I think it is. And everybody has been naming this girl, you see. Trained journalists will know that you are not supposed to name minors in sexual abuse cases, you know. Everybody, including the mainstream media, have been naming this girl. And I get angry when I see this. I mean, the girl isn't dead. The girl is still alive. This girl is going to grow up. One day, people are going to show her, you know. Her kids are going to read because, as they say, once it's on the internet, it lives forever. And so that kind of stuff worries me. And it's clearly that the seasoned journalists and the established media or the respected media have been influenced by the influencers in a way, you know, to act in the same way as your influencers and your what they call content providers are acting. And so that's the danger for me. And so we need to make sure that when we teach young journalists that we also prepare them to understand when issues become blurred.
En Crystal, daar is baie worrying. Waar is die editors, die mense met die ervaring, 20, 30 jaar se media-ervaring? Want because also something that worries me these days, you get an editor with 5 to 7 years experience, and when I was growing up, 5 to 7 years, dan word jy eers 'n senior reporter geword, nog nie eers 'n editor nie.
Ja, Jody, so as ek dink in my klas, ons was 25, ek dink ons is seker 1 of 2 mense wat nog steeds in journalistiek is, want is soos ek my talk begin het, is baie rof daar buite. En jy weet, is 'n besigheid, so die bottom line, as jy nie jou clickbites kry nie, advertisers, jy weet, dan kan nuuskantore nie mense hierdie, so, en wat jy ook nou sien is wat ons noem in journalistiek die juniorisation van nuuskantore. Jy weet, jy kry 'n student, jy kry 'n intern, want natuurlik daai intern word betaal deur die departement van arbeid, so die maatskappy hoef nie 'n salaris te betaal nie. Jy weet, so dis al die dinge wat wat daar in die atmosfeer ook is, wat ek dink wat beïnvloed hoe jou nuuskantoor is. En so baie mense vol, jy weet, is 'n stresvolle werk, jy moet nou met X, jy moet met al die sosiale media kompeteer. So baie mense, jy weet, na COVID, Jy weet, hulle kan nie die cope, jy weet, en het raak te veel, want weet, vir baie mense, as ek self in die kar is, en ek is met my 12-jarige meisiekind, en daar's 'n storie oor, jy weet, 'n verkragsaak, jy weet, is moeilik om te hoor, so ek sit die radio af. En so vir baie mense, en ek dink baie Suid-Afrikaners, die realiteit is, ons is mos in 'n movie. Jy weet, elke dag is daar iets nuuts in Suid-Afrika wat jou skok, en partykeer vir jou eie mental health, probeer jy iets anders doen. Jy weet, ek was nou langsaan by die Boogie Show. Jy weet, is vol. Mense wil ook, they want to be entertained, they want to be told about the beauty of Cape Town, of South Africa. Jy weet, jy wil nie net doom en gloom hoor nie, of sien, of lees nie. Maar Jody, jy weet, en ek was nou al 'n nuusredakteur so vir een van die baie dinge wat ek gedoen het. Jy kan ook nie weghardloop van die realiteit nie, want Suid-Afrika is 'n harde plek. So jy kan nie net stories, die mooi stories vertel nie. Daar's 'n plek vir dit, maar jy moet ook die realiteit vertel. So Jody, jy weet, jy moet my voormalige kollega en baas en redakteur en vriend, Kenneth Maketeus is hier, en hy's 'n groot baas by die SAIK, maar ek sal nie sê wie hy is nie, maar hy is hier in die audience. Jy weet, en ek vra hom altyd, Kenneth, hoe gaan dit? En dan sê hy, jong, jy weet, dis 'n besigheid nou, ons moet die ligte aanhou. So, ja, jy weet, nuuskantore, nuusorganisasies, is rof daar buite, maar verlede week toe kry ek iemand wat by die gemeenskapskoerant werk, en ek volg gemeenskapskoerante, veral in die Kaap, is 'n belangrike bron van nuus wat in jou gemeenskap is. En sy het sê toe vir my, dis haar laaste aand, dis 'n freebie wat sy nou gekry het, sy is retrenched, want hulle was 7 mense wat op 3 koerante gewerk het, en die baas van die koerant het gevoel, nee, hy's te veel mense, so nou is daar net 3 mense vir 3 koerante. Imagine, 1 persoon wat alles moet doen. Het kan nie gebeur, Jody. Jy gaan mistakes maak.
Ja, dis wat ek gevra het oor die kwaliteit.
Jy weet, maar clearly, die baas, hy is nie geïnteresseerd in die kwaliteit nie. Ek sal nou nie sê wat is die man se naam, wie die baas is nie.
Sê vir my na die tyd.
Ek sal vir jou na die tyd sê. Kom vra vir my na die tyd. Maar die ding is, ek voel sterk dat gemeenskapskoerante is so 'n belangrike bron van nuus vir ons almal. Whether is van die gemeenskapstorie van die tannie wat 'n sopkombuis het, die specials by Shoprite en Checkers, die sport wat gebeur, is 'n belangrike bron van nuus. En daar gaan ons dit nou sien, is wholesale close down.
En ja, dis eintlik kommerwekkend as jy lees hoeveel gesoute joernaliste deesdae die bedryf verlaat. Ek gaan binnekort julle daaroor vra. Ek wil net gou vir jou vra, Karen, rondom die influencers en content creators en die druk wat hulle op jou tradisionele media en ook joernaliste sit. Ek het 'n voorbeeld gehad waar 'n kollega, ek gaan ook nie nou die naam noem nie, vir my gesê het in 'n sportstorie, maar die influencer het dit gesê en ek het dit in my berig gehad en ek sê, maar die organisasie het dit nog nie bevestig nie. So ek kan nie gaan sê volgens influencer gaan sê dit het nou gebeur of die persoon het die aankondiging gemaak as die organisasie of Cricket Unie waar hy betrokke is nog nie 'n amptelike verklaring uitgesit het nie. Daai druk wat sosiale media content creators en influencers op joernaliste sit en hoe dit die kwaliteit of nuus beïnvloed, nie die noodwendige kwaliteit nie, maar nuus beïnvloed.
Ja, net om dis waaroor ons vroeër gepraat het. Ek dink die content creators dink om inhoud te skep is soortgelyk as om 'n journalistieke storie te vertel met die beginsels en die etiek en die reëls wat ons aangewoond is. Maar ek dink ook aan die ander kant, hulle maak ook geld uit content creation. So hulle maak ook 'n inkomste uit dit wat hulle doen en hulle het nie noodwendig, jy weet, dieselfde, hulle doen nie rekenskap aan 'n basis wat ek en jy dalk doen nie. Presies, of iemand wat vir hulle gaan sê ja of nee, of dit is 'n storie of los dit. En ek dink, weer eens, ek dink daar's so 'n groot gevaar daarbey, want die man op straat weet dalk nie, jy weet, dit is net iemand op TikTok wat nou nuus versprei met geen, jy weet, credible agter hom of aan nie. Maar ek wil net een ding byvoeg oor wat Christel gepraat het, net oor newsrooms. Ek voel daar moet 'n saak gemaak word en mense gaan dalk van my verskil. As 'n mens deesdae op netwerk of op News24 klik, is daar paywalls. En dis dalk ek voel 'n deel van die toekoms in die volhoubaarheid van joernaliste lê in mense moet daai omskakeling in hulle koppe maak. Ons moet vir nuus betaal. In die verlede was nuus gratis. Daar was geen checks and balances op die internet nie. Jy kan enigiets Google, jy kan enigiets op Twitter gaan lees. Maar die oomblik ek voel as jy weet jy lees iets waarvoor jy betaal het, is die veronderstelling daar dat daar hulpbronne in daai storie gegaan het, dat daar mense met ervaring en integriteit jy weet daai storie geskryf het en ja, ek voel nogal sterk daaroor dat ons met ons lesers saam met ons vat. Ons kan nie nuus jy weet 'n media landskap bou sonder die publiek nie. En ek weet baie mense is nog nie by daai punt waar hulle wil vir nuus betaal nie want hulle voel jy weet jy kan dit op enige plek kry en dis gratis. Maar nuus is ook 'n commodity.
En ek dink as jy byvoorbeeld elke dag 'n koerant van sê R15 koop, as jy daai geld gebruik en dan kan jy inskakel en daai paywall betaal wat ek dink maksimum R120 'n maand is. Maar Ryland, kom ons praat gou oor, ons het begin praat oor koerante en gedrukte media en ons almal besef dit is onder druk en agteruitgaan en Christel het nou die voorbeeld gegee van jy weet joernaliste wat hulle werk verloor veral by gemeenskapskoerante, maar benewens gemeenskapskoerante, dink jy tradisionele koerante, ons weet Beeld en Rapport en klomp Engelse publikasies het toegemaak, het koerante nog 'n bestaansreg in 2025 gegee al die uitdagings wat ons nou van gepraat het, die aanpassing met digitale en sosiale media en so voort, kan koerante, het hulle nog bestaansreg volgens jou?
Well, the proof of the pudding is what they say in the eating or something, the tasting. And so you need to look at the circulation of newspapers in particular. And circulations have declined so much. I mean, the Cape Times, I think, sells just over 7,000 copies or something, you know, which is really, really crazy. And so that gives an indication that people either have lost confidence in print or they've lost confidence in the publication. And I think it's probably a combination of both. And that, you know, that people are looking at the media in different forums. So I think je praat van koerante en dan praat je van gedrukte media, alsof het een en dezelfde is. En ik denk het is een en dezelfde.
Oké, verduidelijk.
Gedrukte media could, you know, like say in newspapers you have what we call mainstream newspapers and then you have community newspapers. I think community newspapers, more than the traditional mainstream media like the Cape Times and the Cape Argus and so on, have an important role still to play. And you can see the Southern Mails and the Plainsmans and the Atlo News and those publications, they actually still get a lot of support because they reflect the community. And yes, daar's klomp bargains as jy kan kry as jy die koerant lees, so and that helps. So I think the community media will still probably exist for a while longer than what is known as the mainstream media. But there's also other forms of media. Okay, there are some niche magazines, and some of the niche magazines are actually growing quite well. Some of the general kind of magazines have suffered quite a bit because people don't want to read the general magazines. They can get that kind of news online, and like the niche magazines play a kind of a very different kind of role. Books, en ons sit hier in 'n lokaal waar hulle praat oor boeke. And books still seem to be doing reasonably well, even though books in South Africa have traditionally not done well. When my first book sold 3,000 copies, my publisher said, hey, you know, you've done really well. I said, no, man. I don't want to sell 3,000 copies. I want to sell 30,000 copies or 300,000 copies. They said, well, that will never happen in South Africa. That is the reality of South Africa. But books still, there's still a place for it, and people still buy books. And then, yeah, I mean, the idea is to find different ways of kind of creating markets. If you look at music, for instance, okay, you had vinyl, you had CDs.
Before vinyl, you had cassettes.
Well, cassettes and vinyl basically were at the same time, yeah. You see this, then you had Spotify and Apple Music and all of that stuff. And now vinyl is making a comeback, you know. Lots of people, in fact, I went to the launch of Carl Shepard's latest music project, and he was selling vinyls at his launch. And he sold all the vinyls, you know. So it depends really on whether you can create a need for it,
Yeah.
and then people will buy it.
Yeah, cool. So I really hope that newspapers could make a comeback. And just on your point on the Cape Times, I was at the airport the other day and I took a Cape Times and the whole newspaper was 8 pages. And that was quite a shock to me. Maar Karen, ek het nou vir Helen gevra oor spesifiek dan gedrukte media en hy het nog onderskei tussen koerante en gedrukte media. Maar dis ook ander tradisionele media, radio wat met podcast kompeteer, TV nuus wat met TikTok en YouTube kompeteer. So dis die hele media landskap wat eintlik met sosiale media en aanlyn media kompeteer.
Ja, ek dink ons almal weet, dit maak nie saak wat 'n platform jy die storie op vertel nie, aan die einde van die dag moet jou inhoud nog steeds goed wees. Jou inhoud moet 'n storie kan vertel of mense inlig of mense educate of mense, jy weet, help om 'n besluit te maak. Ek is baie opgewonde oor die toekoms van journalistiek, in die sin dat dit verryk ons wêreld en dit stel ons in staat om ons stories net meer, jy weet, beter te kan vertel. En ek dink nie ons moet vaskyk in print en dink as print doodgaan dat journalistiek doodgaan nie. Ek dink ons moet juist ons aanslag moet wees om te kyk hoe gaan ek hierdie storie, jy weet, meer interessant maak en op 'n ander manier vertel as wat ons aangewoond is. Die feit dat die Cape Times of al die koerante, ek wil nou nie die Cape Times uitsonder nie. Ons moet ook onthou, en ek wil nou nie op mense se tone trap nie, maar dis 'n ouer geslag wat koerante gelees het en hulle raak ook ouer en hulle is ook dan later nie meer daar nie. So ons moet kyk na ons jonger mark en om nuus vir hulle ook verteerbaar te maak. En ek sê nie daarmee dat ons nou, jy weet, al ons journalistieke beginsels wat ons, jy weet, ons stories nog steeds meer vertel het, dat dit by die deur uitgaan nie. Maar ek dink ons moenie bang wees om te eksperimenteer nie. Ons almal weet die media landskap van die afgelope 10 jaar lyk heeltemal anders as wat dit 5 jaar gelede gelyk het. Dit groei konstant, dit verander konstant en ons moet daarbey byhou. So ek wil half amper my nek uitsteek en sê as koerante moet toemaak, is dit vir my okay, want dis nie die einde van die tipe storie wat ons gaan vertel nie. Ons gaan dit net op ander maniere oordra. Print het 'n wonderlike run gehad en ek dink die meeste van miskien is dit nog die old schoolness in my. Ek het groot geword by die burger en ek voel daai tipe lesse wat ek daar geleer het, sal ek altyd saam met my dra. Maak nie saak waar ek 'n joernalis gaan wees eendag nie. Maar ek gaan nie vasklou aan die verlede van print nie. Ek wil juist kyk na hoe ons, jy weet,
nuwe platforms kry.
En kan skep. Ek dink die great ding van digitaal, dit is half onbeperk en dis untapped. Christel het vroeër gepraat oor AI en ons moet ook nie bang wees om AI te gebruik om ons stories te vertel en dit tot ons voordeel te gebruik nie. En ek dink mense raak se half bang want jy weet dit klink soos die onbekende, dit's masjiene wat jy weet met ons inhoud werk. En ja, daar is obviously, ek sê nie dat ons nie nog steeds die menslike aspek van journalistiek nou heeltemal moet vergeet nie, maar dit kan ons ook help om data vinniger te kry, om ons te help met opsommings. As ons byvoorbeeld by 'n perskonferensie sit en iemand is besig om, 'n politikus is besig daar om nonsens te praat, en jy het nie onmiddellike toegang tot 'n gesprek van 5 jaar gelede waar hy presies die teenoorgestelde gesê het nie. Jy kan letterlik binne sekondes daai inligting herroep. So digitaal en AI, ons moet nie bang wees nie, ons moet dit juis tot ons voordeel gebruik.
Ja, net gou 'n vinnige storie oor AI van die mense sal weet, ek is ook 'n sportkommentator so nou en dan, en ek sien Wimbledon gaan nou AI gebruik om tenniswedstryde kommentaar te gee vir die mense. So dit is hoe nog 'n impak op die media landskap. As jy enige vrae is, ons gaan steek net jou hand op. Ek dink Theo gaan 'n mikrofoon na julle toe bring. Stel julle self voor en dan kan julle vraag vra. As dit 'n algemene vraag is, kan julle dit stel. As dit iemand spesifiek op die gehoor is wat julle wil hê moet antwoord, noem net die persoon se naam. Maar Christel, ons het nou gepraat oor die verskeie platforms waar dit begin het, gedrukte media, radio, TV en YouTube en podcast en al die tipe goed en aanlyn media. Die storie moet vertel word. Maak dit noodwendig saak op watter platform en hoe dit vertel word?
Nee, ek dink 'n storie moet vertel word en die meer mense wat dit gaan lees, wat dit gaan sien, wat dit gaan consume, hoekom dan nie? So jy weet, ek agree met Karen and that it's time to embrace, you know, you can't be scared of AI, it's here, how do we make the best of it? But I always say the fact is every morning Ukosi FM in KwaZulu-Natal and surrounds have 7.5 million listeners. That is the biggest radio station, not only in Africa, but I think in the world.
Second biggest in the world.
Oh, is it? Okay. Wie is nommer 1?
Chinese radio stations is for the record.
Of course, ja, dankie. Jy weet so, daar's 'n audience, jy weet stories moet vertel word. Wat die SAK Afrikaanse nuus, ek dink 'n paar weke gelede, for some strange reason was dit nie daar nie. Jy weet die oproep wat ons gekry het. So, jy weet mense voel nog steeds daar is 'n platform wat hulle voel as 'n emosionele attachment to it. Ek dink dit gaan verander nie, maar ons moet adapt met die audiences. Ons moet jong mense kan stories vir hulle vertel wat hulle gaan geïnteresseerd is. En so ja, as jy weet, it's sometimes mind blowing because everything happens so fast, but I think the story is never going to go away, Jody.
En net gou daai instant gratification, dat die attention span vandag van die verbruikers, everybody wants it instant now and they want it short. Hulle soek nie, if I want something in-depth, Ryland, dan gaan ek nou aanlyn en ek sal meer research gaan doen, but if I can get a synopsis of, let's say, if you can tell me the story in 1 minute, you'll get more views, and that's what people are chasing.
Yeah, and the unfortunate thing is that because of that, you do find people break the rules. In fact, ons sit nou hier in die saal en we honor Jake Scherwel. And I remember when Jake Scherwel died, the day before he died, he was very ill, a very well-respected veteran journalist actually announced that he had died.
I remember.
And again, you know, falling into the trap of social media. The other day also I saw a person I knew quite well died, and somebody who was not part of the family, who was at very best a friend of the person, announced it on social media before the family had actually, you know, kind of announced it. So those kind of things do happen, and that's the worrying stuff. So we need to find a way of getting journalists to assert journalism and to assert the values of journalism. When I came into journalism, part of what I realized that journalism was never going to be a career in which I was going to make money. And I saw it as a calling because it was still during the height of apartheid. I felt that I could play a role as a journalist in informing the world about the atrocities committed under apartheid. And so that's because I wanted to change the world that I was living in. And so I had a purpose to become a journalist, you know, with this kind of higher purpose. I don't know why people become journalists now. I remember when I was at Pentec, which eventually became CPUT, and interviewing first-year journalism students. There were quite a few of them who said to me that they want to become presenters on SABC. And I said, if that's the reason you want to become a journalist, then you're choosing the wrong profession. And you're choosing the wrong thing to study. Because that is not the reason why we become journalists.
But Jody, sorry, on that, I just want to also say that I do find that the emergence of social media has also meant a democratization of stories. Jy weet, al is dit nuwe kos of dans of musiek of enigiets. I do think that the platforms have allowed us to see the full diversity, not only of a place like South Africa, but the world, and that we should also embrace.
Ek wil net wat Ryland gesê het oor, especially when people die and people announce it because everybody wants to be first on social media. I also recently, somebody that I knew died, but it wasn't confirmed by the family and people wanted to post it and they couldn't understand me telling them, you can't do this, it's unethical that you announce it if the family hasn't, and they couldn't understand it because for them it was all about wanting to be first on social media. That's just my 2 cents worth. Enige vrae, any questions, Engels of Afrikaans, daar agter is 2 hande en hier voor is ook 'n dame. So it's net jou voorstel en jou vraag is dit dan enige en spesifiek is asseblief.
Goedemiddag allemaal, al September. Ik heb een paar vragen, maar ik ga het al bij 3, Jody.
Okay.
Mijn eerste vraag voor Christel is, je hebt vroeger gepraat over de ever-changing environment van de media. Neem publicaties, hulle audiences, samen met die verandering. Dus mijn vraag voor jou, voor Karen en mijn vraag voor jou is, gebruik die media, sociale media verkeerd? Want ons kan nie net sê gebruik het reg nie. En dan Ryland vir jou is Christel het vroeër gepraat hiervan, maar praat ons genoeg oor die juniorisation van nuuskantore. Ek het verlede jaar die media verlaat vir die politiek en een van die calls wat ek byna elke dag kry is joernaliste wat vir my vra, is daar werk? En dis gesoute mense wat die veld wil verlaat. So praat ons genoeg en wat doen ons daaroor?
Baie dankie, kom ek dink ons hanteer gou dit en dan die persoon langs jou het 'n vraag. Okay, maar hanteer gou dit, Christel begin.
Okay, Al, dankie vir jou vraag. Are we taking our audiences with us? I think it depends. Jy weet, ek voel stellig as jy nie jou audience saam met jou gaan vat nie, dan jy weet, maak die deur toe. So ek dink again, 'n nuuskantoor van 10 jaar gelede is nie dieselfde van wat dit nou is nie, want ons audience verander en jy weet, mense probeer om agile te wees, maar jy weet, ek was in 3 nuuskantore, ETV, ENCA, Prime Media, as 'n nuusredakteur. Jy weet, en jy probeer, jy weet, hy breaking news, as jy nie eerste is, jy gaan jou baas op jou kom skree. Jy weet, en so, ek onthou altyd by ENCA, jy weet, ons audience was 'n 50-jarige man met die naam van Jabu, en Jabu wou baie graag hoor, hy wil nie te veel gehoor het van die drama van, jy weet, dit en dat nie, maar hy was baie geïnteresseerd in wat gaan aan in die politiek. Wat sê Cyril Ramaphosa, wat sê Herman Mashaba. So jy weet, mens moet, as jy in 'n kommersiële nuus environment is, moet jy kan weet wie is jou audience. Jy weet, as jy nie kan sê dis al 35, hy het 'n kar en so aan, jy weet, dis die realiteit, maar dis hoekom ek stellig, I still believe, and maybe one day I'll go back and be head of the SABC, Kenneth, because I strongly believe the role of the SABC, SAICA is so belangrik in Suid-Afrika. As mens kyk in die BBC, ons kyk in Canada, CBS, ons kyk in Australië, jy weet die rol van die public broadcaster is so belangrik want hulle gaan uit om die stories te vertel wat jy nie op 'n kommersiële platform gaan sien nie. And unless we as the public, I pay my TV license, en as ons wil credible nuus wat vir ons gaan vertel wat in Mpumalanga is, wat in die Noord-Kaap is, wat in Limpopo is, wat in die Oos-Kaap is, as ons daai nuus wil hê en ons wil die radio aan en ons wil vir Jody luister, ons wil vir SAK kyk, ons moet probeer om dit te cross-subsidize. En as dit nie gaan gebeur dan jy weet gaan die audience en veral die audience, die gewone persoon wat miskien nie 'n kar het nie, wat nie 'n werk het nie, maar wil baie graag luister na die nuus, dan gaan daai nuusie daar wees nie.
Karen, ek dink die vraag vir jou was gebruik die media, sosiale media verkeerd.
Voordat ek my vraag beantwoord, wil ek net 'n grappie maak en sê, Ryland, both Jody and I came out of your class and I think we are okay.
And still in the media.
And still in the media. Maar net om die vraag te beantwoord oor sosiale media. Kyk, sosiale media, ons het nie in ons tyd met sosiale media groot geword in die journalistiek nie. En ek dink soos wat dit maar met enige ander bedryf is, jy leer en jy pas aan. Ek dink sosiale media is baie belangrik. Nie net is dit dikwels die platform waar die meeste van ons soggens eerste ding wanneer ons oë oopmaak, kyk ons wat gaan aan op Facebook en X en Instagram. En dikwels is dit die eerste kennismaking met wat in die wêreld aangaan. En ek dink die mens moet dit onderskat nie. En ek dink die mens moet sosiale media net sien as 'n skinderplatform of waar celebs jy weet goed doen nie. Ek dink 'n verantwoordelike mediahuis of mediapublikasie moet juis sosiale media tot die beste van hulle vermoë gebruik en geld daarin ploeg, want dis dikwels die eerste plek waar die meeste mense hulle nuus vir die dag sien. With that being said, ek was ook toe ek nuusredakteur was, het sosiale media vir my soort van 'n bietjie van 'n overall view gegee van, en ek gaan nie sê dit was 100% die gesprek van die dag nie, maar dit het vir my dikwels net 'n kykie gegee in waaroor praat mense, wat raak mense, wat affekteer mense. Mense gebruik sosiale media vir verskillende redes. Soms kla mense, soms is daar 'n debat aan die gang wat die gewone man op straat nie eens van weet nie, maar ek dink dit maak jou net oop vir, jy weet, die onbekende. En ek het dikwels op net 'n idee gekry van kwessies, van issues wat in die Kaap sit nie noodwendig gaan weet wat iemand in Johannesburg deurgaan nie. So ek dink in daai opsig is sosiale media ook 'n goeie manier om, jy weet, net 'n idee te kry van die politieke landskap of nie net politiek nie, maar die algemene landskap. Ek dink, en daar's nog ander baie voorbeelde wat ek dink sosiale media bereik jonger mense. Ek dink dis waar die meeste jong mense hulle nuus kry. Ek dink nie jong mense lees koerante of tydskrifte nie. Ek dink die groot gevaar met sosiale media is as jy dit gebruik as die enigste platform of as die enigste plek vir, jy weet, jou hoofbron. En ons almal weet sosiale media is ook nie 'n spieelbeeld van wat in die samelewing aangaan. Jy het baie meer nodig. Jy moet eintlik met mense praat, jy moet jou foon optel of jy moet mense gaan sien. En ek dink dis die gevaar as mediahuise net daai een bron sosiale media, jy weet, storie gebruik. En baie keer, ek het al baie kere dit gesien waar publikasies net 'n sosiale media post van 'n bekende sal gebruik en dan die hele storie daar uitkabbel.
Ja.
En dit is gevaarlik. En dan weer eens die gebruiker lees dit as die waarheid.
Feitelike waarheid.
So ek dink dit hang af van jou rol as 'n verantwoordelike joernalis om sosiale media te gebruik, maar om nog steeds jou checks and balances nog steeds na te kom.
Ryland, you touched on it earlier, the juniorization of the newsroom, and soos Oluk sê, gesoute journaliste wat besluit, I've had enough, I'm going to look for something else.
Yeah, but not only they've had enough, but there are also many journalists who have lost their jobs. Okay, um, I mean, I haven't been in the formal employ of one of the mainstream papers for many years, but I still get, on a weekly basis, I get people who call me looking for work. Sure. And so that is a major problem. But you know, when I started off in journalism, you spend your first 6 months doing court reporting. Okay, you didn't get bylines. In fact, for the first 6 months or so, you didn't get bylines. Okay, you did court reporting, then you became a general reporter, and then you had to have had at least 10 years experience before you actually became a beat reporter. A beat reporter is like somebody who specializes in education or health or politics or whatever. When I was working at the Sunday Times, I was assistant editor. My editor was a guy called Ken Owen. This was in the early 90s. And the one day I said to Ken, you know, Ken, the problem, I think the problem with South African media or newspapers is the fact that all the editors are old farts. Okay? It's time that they employ editors who are under 40 years old. The next year, I get appointed to the Cape Times. At the age of 35, I become editor of the Cape Times. A year or two later, I called Ken. I said, you know, Ken, I understand now why editors have to be old farts. Okay. No, but I said to him, the first thing is I've got young kids. I never see my kids because this job is like a 24/7 job. But more important than that, there's a certain wisdom that you need as an editor that you only get with age. And I don't have that wisdom. I'm trying, like desperately, you know, to have that wisdom. But it's not something that I can get at the age of 36, 37.
Just on that quickly, all the rugby lovers here, a young sports reporter phoned me the other day about Sasha Feinberg on KwaZulu playing so well, and he asked me who would I compare him to back in the day. And I said Herschel Gibbs. And this guy had no idea that Herschel Gibbs was actually a brilliant rugby player in his younger days. And it just shows you that, you know, people don't have that institutional knowledge anymore. Just quickly, another question there, and then we'll come to you as well. So we'll take them back to back, and then we'll start wrapping up.
Hi, everyone. William. I do my master's in journalism. On the rise of sort of new media or social media, wonder ek, wat qualify iemand om 'n journalist te wees? You know, must you have studied? How do we label someone as a journalist? Should you have been qualified or not? That's the one thing. The second thing, the idea of citizen journalism, that's like also on the rise, where people argue like, oh, legacy media is they're gatekeepers. They're not really giving us the real story, or whatever. So that concept, what is your feeling about that? En as jy mens byvoorbeeld nou kyk na journaliste, of die gemeenskapsstories, as ons byvoorbeeld Middelpost nou vat, nee, so baie van die social media influencers daarmee die Jocelyn Smith case voel that, oh, we were the first ones to say something about it, and that's how legacy media knew about it, and that's when they started writing about it. So do they have a role in, you know, how the media sets its agenda today? Because obviously the media doesn't alone set its agenda anymore, because we also get our stories from what people are saying on social media. So do they have some type of influence, and perhaps should journalists be empowered by their companies or media houses to have a stronger voice in social media to defeat sort of misinformation from other sort of personalities?
Very good questions. We'll get to it now. I think the lady in front also wanted a question, and then over. Oh, okay, baie vra.
Hi, good afternoon. My name is Marianne Volkvein. I'm hesitant to call myself a journalist because of this exact question, and I can't wait to hear the answer. But I've been a writer for a good few years, and probably a content creator in a way, because I've created content for different platforms, but not an influencer in that way. So yeah, complicated. But I was one of the lucky ones to lose my job because of this whole juniorization situation, and I was in the hiring process of 3 interns that was under me. They got them, I got them ready to go, and then I was pushed out because they were now skilled enough. even though people on the inside didn't see the work that I was doing to get them to that point of, you know, having that level of quality. And even now, they still, I'm not sure how things are going now, but I mean, there was a lot of things that was being done before a piece was published every single day. And so, no longer my circus, but now I'm in a space where I kind of want to move into media that's a little bit different, because I've been doing a lot of lifestyle content in that way. And I want to move into a little bit more serious. I think there was a lot of back and forth between me and my editor about how certain information, they didn't want to touch anything political, because they kept saying the thing about our audience. They don't want to, you know, they're old white ladies, I was told. They don't want to hear anything. Even when I wrote a piece about like Freedom Day and celebration and trying to keep it fun and light, but also giving a little bit of insight into why we should celebrate it. They don't want to hear black and white. And so those things were taken out of my pieces. And so now I'm at a place where I'm in my early 30s, having lost my job, still wanting to be in the industry, but wanting to be taken a little bit more seriously. How do I kind of navigate this space? Because I don't have a name in essence to go, okay, this is the type of stories I want to cover or that I've done. So yeah, how do I kind of navigate this space?
Thank you very much. The person in the red shirt. Julle moet notevads, nee. Julle gaan met rap.
Actually, first one to, as a comment, actually, Karen Ann, you know, there was something that you mentioned earlier on when you said if it's going to be time for news houses or newspapers to close down and embrace digital, the new technology. I just had like a wow, are we really here now that is going to be gone soon? I grew up like with your Ryan Fisher, them, Naushad Khan. I couldn't wait even weekends or for the 48 hours to come, because it attracted me, because well, I want to know what's happening in Cape Town. And Miss Audison, Crystal Audison, I think you also used to do news on radio. Yeah. And I couldn't wait also to listen to your sexy voice on radio, whatever news you used to say. I was interested in the news too, but just listen to your voice, and here you are today. Waar gaat ons weer koerante kry, weer as ons klaar gelees het om ons vensters af te was? En as ons skoene klein is, de tyd is, dan sit ons die Plainsman in. Waar gaat ons weer koerante kry? Nee man, moenie toe maak nie. I also grew up like, you know, with the Plainsman and the Athlone News and the Huisgenoot in the U, and where you do the cutouts of the songs, die moderne songs, en sy jou eie boek. Kon lekker lag niggie, sy het ook so 'n boek gehad, sy lag, and you cut out, or you get the middle poster, and you put it up against your wall, and so on, you know. With Naushad also, we're doing the 48 hours, they always used to have giveaways. For whatever festivals and that, we're gonna miss that. That was so iconic. Your Pintang that spoke to the LGBT community, because there was no other newspaper that spoke for the LGBT. And digital era means load shedding. Asseblief kan hulle man. Thank you for you guys, man. You are actually icons within the public houses, and I need to give recommendation for that. Ryan Fisher, wow. You really an icon, and there's a lot of journalists that came out of your hands. So. And journalists is not just, as I say, Niels Pisage means, they wanted news screen. No, you had hearts back in the days. You told the story, and you helped a lot of families. You helped a lot of people grow, and here I'm on the screen. I was also the Mr. Golden Banana of the Daily Voice, make us know, and a pampoen for Anna now. I was the very first male to kick off the page 3 girl. But I mean, that also brought a different side that I didn't even know of me, and also like with people like our artists that's been struggling in our industry though. Your publications though. You gave them the push that they needed. But thank you, guys. Thank you, Naushad.
Thank you very much. Final question here in the corner, I think. Somebody on this side, yeah.
Good evening. Afternoon. I'm Tangeli Marinas, and I've just got a few questions. I'm sure any one of you can answer this. I remember when I was at Pentic as well, a young journalist, my first assignment was this topic, and I think it's such a timeless thing to speak about. And just to shorten it, I think I got to the conclusion personally when Karen and Al said that, digital age is here, we have to accept that. I totally agree with that. For me, I'm struggling a bit, being a journalist in the field as well, and I got to the conclusion that I cannot let go of feeling a physical newspaper in my hands or carrying it under my arm. And so I wanted to know, sorry, I've got my questions here. With AI increasingly being able to, generate news and shorten stories and mimic journalistic voices, what do you believe will always require the human journalist touch? And then also with stories coming out of especially marginalized communities, I'm thinking about the Jocelyn Smith story especially. How do we how do we ensure that the stories aren't only told when there's tragedy or trauma happening? Because when I first heard of the Jocelyn Smith story and I saw that the judge allowed it to take place in a multi-purpose center, I was quite upset about that. But then I had seen an Instagram friend of mine's opinion about it in saying that he had made it accessible to everyone in the community, which is absolutely great. I thought that perspective was wonderful. But then also she highlighted the fact that a lot of people don't realize, or they're just so focused on the story, they don't actually know what happens in and around these communities. And I thought that was another story, that was obviously an opportunity to write another story. There are good things that come out of there as well, but obviously a lot of tragedy as well. And then Karen Ann, now you spoke about the journalists are taught to think digital first. What I found from friends of mine who are still in the newspapers, print media, they said that they're struggling, especially with the workloads, and especially when people are retrenched. And then often the editor, not the editor, the big boss, who doesn't really care so much about what is being written because he cares so much about money and he doesn't see it from our perspective. He says that they are reluctant to accept that, you've got to do both. You've got to write, run a team, be out in the field. You've got people coming into the newsroom, and a lot of people don't really know what goes on in and around the newsroom. And then just one last question, sorry, I'm pushing it here. I'm a bit out of touch with journalism now, so I just wanted to know what are they putting in place for journalists' mental health? You dealing with crisis stories, injustices, and I'm someone who I get pretty emotional now when I see things, and I can only imagine what the journalists must be going through when they're writing that. Thanks.
Baie dankie. Baie vrae. Kom, Rylan, ek begin by jou. What makes a journalist? I always tell people when they say, but they're also a journalist, I'm like, did you sit in a media ethics class? I've got a diploma to show that I'm a journalist. Wat maak 'n journalist vandag? What qualifies you as a journalist? Mike?
Yeah, no, I think you need, you need to have a kind of an understanding of the laws governing journalism, and ethics and all of those kind of things. But more importantly, and we haven't spoken about it, is you need to know how to write. Okay? And that is, in some way, a reply also to your question about what about the human touch that AI can't give you. AI can write, but there are certain things that AI just can't write, that you can only get from a person observing. When I interview people, I sit and I interview the person, and I look around at the surroundings in which I'm interviewing the person, and I look on, if they've got bookshelves, I look on bookshelves, I see what books they have on their shelf. I see what they have in front of them. Do they have a cup of coffee in front of them? A cup of tea? Do they have a double whiskey? Whatever. And you need to, as a journalist, you need to be observant all the time, okay? Because all that that information that seems superfluous at the moment, they could find a way weaved into your story, and that you can't get from AI. So I'm not one who believes that the journalists need to be qualified, but I think you need to have an understanding of the things that make up a journalist, the laws, the ethics. Those are very important things. And then you need to, in your case, like, if you, depending on the field that you want to enter, you need to become almost like an expert in that field. And then you need to maybe just submit stories to publications that cover that kind of stuff. And I can tell you, nobody can say good or can say that they don't want a bloody good story. Okay? If you present them as a freelance journalist with a bloody good story, they're going to take notice of you. And it's tough to get to that point where you can actually produce bloody good stories. But that's what you need to aim to do.
Crystal?
Firstly, thank you for all the questions. Really great to hear, that people are thinking about all these things that we are grappling with. I'm not going to be able to answer all the questions, unfortunately. But I think, I am a testimony. I've been a freelancer for 12 years, doing everything. And elke dag staan ek op my sê, dan sê ek, I can do it. Fanny Mitchell's playing, by the way. And I think you have to have that resilience and agility just to say, I can. Yes, AI is coming. Yes, this is coming. But I'm like, so can I. So, it's constantly, it's adapting. And of course, it's back to mental health. I was back in the newsroom during COVID 2020 to 2024. And we had people dying. And I had to be a news editor. And after that, 4 years, I was like, nee, girl, ek is a psychologist. I actually resigned and I had no other job because I'm like, nee, ek is a therapist. I must be my own therapist. But that's the hard decision that I had to make. And so, so my, kind of my big thing is just that, I now operate as a business person. I think like a bubby on the corner. Okay, what story can I think? And as all my colleagues said, like, I know it sounds like so, kind of dreamy, but I really think it's a calling, that we don't get the big salaries. You're not going to see us driving the latest BMW or whatever, but we really love what we do. And so, 30 years later, I still, love what I do. There's always amazing projects that I'm doing. And obviously I have to thank the SABC because I was the first bureau chief for in an African country, and I had decided to make that my niche. And so as much as it was a few years ago that I was working in West Africa, it's still, I made myself the expert. I'm like, ek is die girl. Ek ken alles wat aangaan in Africa. And so they come to me from analysis, local, international broadcasters. It's constant. And then, of course, eventually there's a monetization. But I don't think of monetizing first, I think, okay, ek moet die ligte aanhou. But I don't think of money first. I'm like, okay, what story can I tell? And then what else can come afterwards? And it really does. I just think, you have to put in the work. I constantly, even today is like my off day. Because tomorrow, my sê, ek moet gaan hustle, jong. So, and so I can't tell you what to do, but it's just, I am still doing what I love doing in different ways. And if you have the passion, you can find it. And in mental health, I think newsrooms have put a lot of things in place for mental health. You can, there's definite post-COVID, there's definite assistance. But I think the reality is that the news is not for everyone. As I told you, in a class of 25, there's 2 people and I'm one of them. So, and it's okay, I don't throw stones at anyone who says enough. But okay, Jody's nog altyd 'n journalist, hoeveel jaar later. And so I just think, if the story is always going to be there. I think South Africa is always a big story. I work a lot in the international news environment. And somehow 5 years ago, no one was interested in South Africa. Now we're still a big story. So Yeah, it's just finding your place in the sun.
Baie dankie, net gou 30 second stuff act to follow met Crystal se sexy voice, Karen, jou slotgedagte.
Okay, vinnig. Ek wil net vinnig sê, ek dink ons het so 'n groot nostalgiese gevoel wanneer dit kom by koerante, né? Kom ons weet as iets wat hy papiergevoel kan replace nie. En I get it. Glo my, dit was vir my ook 'n groot kopskuif om vrede te maak dat koerante se dae getel is. Ek sê nie dis heeltemal verby nie, maar ek dink soos wat met enigiets in die lewe, ons moet aanvaar die wêreld verander. So, ek dink maar net embrace digital. Ek wil na die tyd dalk 'n bietjie langer met jou praat want ek voel ek dink daar's baie belangrike vrae wat jy gevra het veral oor net die rol van die media. Nie net wanneer dit 'n storie is nie, maar ook juis wanneer dis amper soos wanneer iemand doodgaan, jy moenie net daar wees wanneer jy weet met die afsterwe, maar juis wanneer daar nie aangaan, wanneer daar nie iets groot is net om te praat oor die algehele gevoel. En dan met jou wil ek net sê, ek dink ons moet joernaliste oplei om alles te kan doen en om onsself so equipped as moontlik te maak. So as dit daarop neerkom dat jy dalk, jy weet, jouself 'n kursus in, ek maak dit nou op, in video editing moet aanleer, doen dit. Ek het myself probeer in soveel verskillende fasette blootstel sodat ek aan die einde van die dag half, jy weet, enige iets kan doen. Ek gaan nie noodwendig die beste wees in alles nie, maar net om iewers net my voet in te kry om te kan sê, okay, ek kan skryf, ek kan edit, ek kan foto's neem, want ongelukkig is ons omgewing so, jy moet ook jouself bemarkbaar maak as moontlik.
Dit is dan dit, bietjie oor tyd, maar baie dankie Karen en Nel, Crystal Odison en Ryland Fisher. Ek is seker die mense wat nog vra het, julle gaan in die om te wees, en baie dankie vir julle in die gehoor wat kom bywoon het, baie dankie.